the sooner you learn how to regulate your own being, that's when you get to leverage your own life and you can start actually planting seeds to move forward.
Welcome to the Letitia Tickle podcast, helping you to come back to yourself.
The power of learning how to come back to yourself, how to regulate yourself, is the most important skill that I have learned in my life, out of finances, out of how to build a business, out of anything. It has been how to come back to myself. And the reason for that is, and I'm going to use a real life example that happened this morning. There was an incident dropping my daughter off with her dad this morning, and she didn't want to go, and it was very, very incredibly messy, and it did knock me. I'm not going to lie. It did. I then drove out and I went and sat around the corner and I cried for like a good 30-40 minutes, feeling like I did my daughter a disservice. So the mum guilt hit freaking hard, really, really hard. And then it took me a while to get back into myself. And I was coming here today to this place, and I was meant to be recording at a certain time and meeting other people and doing all of these things. And there was a part of me that was like, just cancel, just go and do something for you, which would have been fine. And I'm not saying that that is a bad choice. In fact, that's the choice that helped me to learn how to regulate myself, is actually noticing when I was dysregulated and then doing something to regulate myself. But because I've now been doing it for 5-6 years, like really intensively, that's been my focus basically since my divorce, because it was either sink or swim, and I chose to swim and learn about nervous system regulation and hypnotherapy and the power of my mind and visualization to help me be more in control of my own life, so that outside circumstances weren't dictating how I felt and how I operated throughout the day, because I knew that if I continued down that path, I would be continually at the mercy and the whim of how other people were wanting to make me feel that day. And I had this real stubbornness within me to be like, I don't think so. You've controlled me for long enough. I'm taking my power back right now. And that is what coming back to yourself really is. It's you calling back that inner strength, that inner power to be like, this is where I stand, and it's not necessarily getting loud. There wasn't much else that I could do about today, unfortunately. I handled it the best that I could. And the most important part is that I managed to regulate myself enough to show up and record a couple of podcasts in a day, instead of throwing it all out the window, which is what I would have done a couple of years ago, because I just would have been ruminating for the entire time. So you're probably like, okay, well, that's a great story, but how do you get from, calming yourself down and regulating yourself quick enough to not let it ruin your whole day, to not let it ruin your whole week, and hopefully not any more than a day, because that's really detrimental to your own growth. So what I want to talk to you about today is how I actually got myself from A to B of being really dysregulated to being calm, or being able to regulate myself a lot quicker, because that's the really important aspect. And that's something that I want to be able to teach every single woman out there, particularly every single mother, every single professional mother, every single mother who is like doing everything on her own, because the sooner you learn how to regulate your own being, that's when you get to leverage your own life and you can start actually planting seeds to move forward, because you're no longer staying in a state of survival. You are now able to plant seeds of growth to get to where you want to be and doing the things that you actually desire and want to do. The first biggest part of this is truly noticing when you're dysregulated and then finding a healthy outlet. And you've probably been like, well, yeah, we've heard that. So what? What does having a healthy outlet actually look like? Well, it means actually crying. So when I went and sat around the corner for 30, 40 minutes today and just bawled my eyes out, that was actually my body releasing everything that it had to for me to get back into a regulated state. But if I pushed through that, it would have still been in my nervous system. I wouldn't have expelled it. So crying is huge. Screaming, even bigger. I do this myself. I do it with my clients and I do it with my kids. We went camping 2 months ago and we all screamed as a group. It was me and another friend and their kid. And we were like, we're going to get rocks and we're going to throw them. And as we throw them, we're going to scream, because movement or visualization or like even just thought of like releasing something is immensely, immensely powerful. And doing that, we felt so much better. So you actually have to find something to get the emotion out. So if you're sad, cry or journal. If you're angry, throw a rock, scream, punch a pillow, get a pillow and whack it on the couch. If you're feeling jealous or overwhelmed, it might be more that you need to like shake your body, move your body, shake it out, go for a walk. Maybe you need to like meditate and look at the trees a little bit, or do some eye movements, just even left to right while humming. That is actually super regulating for your nervous system. So if you're driving, please don't do this. But if you're somewhere right now where you're able to, I want you to think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, how calm and peaceful you feel. Once you got that number, I want you to look up to the ceiling and I want you to do a really slow circle down. It doesn't matter which way you go first, just going really slow all the way down to the bottom, all the way back up to the top. And then you're going to go back down the other way, really slow. And all you're doing right now is starting to become more aware of your body. And then we're going to place, no, this might be hard with my microphone, but there's a bone between on your hand, on the palm of your hand, on the front of it. And there's 2 bones, and you want to tap in between those 2 bones. And placing it on your chest and tapping on those 2 bones and humming. So you go tap, tap, tap. Doesn't matter what you hum. My go-to when I was learning to regulate myself was humming the Harry Potter theme song, because it just made me feel good and I knew it really well. So I would hum that. So if you have a certain song or something, just hum that. Maybe it's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, because you're in the depths of motherhood and that's the first song that comes to your mind. Now I want you to move your eyes from left to right, left to right, left to right. Just doing that a few times. Maybe taking a deep breath in as you continue to move your eyes left to right. Deep breath in, relaxing your eyes, and exhaling. How do you feel now? 1 to 10. Do you feel slightly softer in your body? Or are you just thinking, man, that was a weird activity. What is she making me do? But having small skill sets like these in your back pocket for moments where you're really dysregulated, they compound over time, and they mean that they give you they basically give you a lifeline, an opportunity to come back to yourself. Will you come back to yourself fully? Maybe it's 2% better, but it's better than where you were. And that's the most important thing out of anything that we talk about in this podcast, of coming back home to yourself and moving from feeling chaotic and ungrounded and overstimulated and unhappy and dissatisfied in life to feeling calm and grounded and peaceful in your life and who you are as a person. Just remember that it is the 1% changes that make the biggest monumental difference. So maybe you practice doing just the eye circles and then humming and tapping between those 2 fingers every night before you go to bed. and maybe every morning when you wake up. And in that, you're giving your nervous system a moment in time to regulate itself. And that will compound, and then you will be able to find that baseline a lot quicker. So when something happens, like you have to deal with your co-parent, or something happens with your child, or work is stressing you out, that you're able to go and pull yourself back to ground zero as quick as possible. Okay, so what are some other strategies or tools that I did along my journey to get to a place where I can pull myself in a lot quicker? And some days I have to be really quick. I haven't had him tested, but I'm pretty sure that my son is like a little bit spicy. And I love that about him, but it can also be really fun to deal with at times. And I can't allow myself to retaliate or react or fly off the handle when he's having one of his moments, because it does not help the situation at all. So, some of the other activities, other than those regulating eye movements ones, is taking a really deep breath in through my nose, a really sharp inhale, and I like visualize light coming back into my body, and then I imagine that light sinking back in, almost as if I'm pulling my soul back into my physical being. That one helps me when I'm in situations like in the moment that I have to deal with, and I can't be doing like eye movements or anything because I'm not alone. That breath one really helps. Another one that really helps if you get anxious or overwhelmed and you're dealing with direct confrontation is drop your thought from your head and bring all your attention and awareness to the bottoms of your feet, so the soles of your feet, and maybe like wiggle your toes a little bit. Your brain has then gone from like headspace thought down to thinking about your toes. But when you think about anything down, it actually drops you into your body more. So that's something that we use in hypnosis. So we'll say you're sinking further and further down, going deeper and deeper. That's right. And the deeper you go, the calmer you feel. And when we use these words like calm, like down, or further or dropping, there's actually a bodily sensation that happens physiologically where you will start to feel calmer just from thinking downwards. So if you think towards your feet, you will start to feel calmer just in that alone. So let's say you're relatively stressed out these days, or you're like a little bit better than what you used to be, but you know that you're still not at the point where you recover quickly or that you bounce back and you get to continue to be the person that you want to be for the rest of the day, and things still throw you off for a really long time. I want you to imagine that you practice doing some of these tools, some of these really small, like 30-second strategies, and you did them for 12 months. And then you continued to do them for 2 years, and then 4 years, then 5 years later. And maybe you can get a sense of how calm that version of you feels, how peaceful she is. Even with all the chaos that's happening around, you still feel calm within your everyday life, like you're really anchored, rooted down into the ground, and like nothing can sway you, no matter how big the breeze or outside circumstances. You still feel calm and protected at the core of your being. If this podcast helped you drop in 1%, or it gave you an idea or a strategy that you're like, yeah, I really believe that is going to help me move the needle forward 1% more over the next month, then you might think, what's the point of that? That's the exact point. Those 1% things make the biggest changes, because it's either that or you don't start. And I know which one I would be choosing. drop a comment, drop a follow, be sure to subscribe, and let's keep grounding in. Let's keep coming back home to ourselves and feeling a little bit better, one little micro step at a time.